guys, how's it going? It's Al. We are going to go over the wild card Saturday slate, a 2-game slate. Tomorrow, we're going to have the 3-game Sunday slate and take a first look at that. We have 6 games, the Monday night 1-game showdown slate. I'll record that one on Sunday and get you the latest up-to-date one on that. Join the Discord. We're going to have people in there all week long going over everything for the individual slates as well as the week-long slate. Friday, as usual, will come out the lineup builder show where the Twitch chat can answer or ask all the questions as possible. We're going to have videos all week long to try and help you out, but make sure that you hop in the Discord at smizzle.tv/Discord. To get into the VIP rooms, it is $5 a month. You can become a service subscriber right in that Discord itself. Cheat sheets for PGA during the regular season for NFL. There are cheat sheets as well, but the most valuable commodity we have is the community that we have built, because there's always people to talk to about strategy and planning and lineup building to bounce ideas off of, because daily fantasy can be as isolating as anything else that is out there. So having a community of people who are like-minded to bounce ideas off of, just trying to get better every day, is extremely valuable. So make sure that you join us today. Thank you guys for being here. Drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, ring the notifications bell, and let's go.
He's a legend.
6 games here in the wild card round. 2 of them are the ones that we're going to focus on, the ones that are here on Saturday. The Cleveland Browns going to Houston to square off against the Texans. This one is going to be in a nice temperature controlled environment in a dome. Browns 2.5 point favorites, total 44. The Dolphins traveled to Kansas City, where the temperature is going to be frigid and freezing. Dolphins don't do well in negative temperatures. They need to be underwater and submerged, but that's a whole different story. We're going to see how this Dolphins offense plays. Chiefs are favored by 3.5. It's going to be cold in this one. Taking a look at the lobby, we have this 2-game slate. Like we said, we have a 6-gamer. Lots of choices for how you want to get in, where you fit in. Nothing really on the 4-gamer. The 3-gamer, I'll have a video coming out on Tuesday for that one. Millionaire makers abound this weekend. So let's take a look at what we got on this 2-game slate. I'll go game by game like I do on these shorter slates. We'll take a look over at Fantasy Labs, giving you an idea of how I build 150 lineups on these shorter slates. So taking a look over here really quickly, like I said, we're going to go kind of game by game and see what we got here. So like Joe Flacco, he's been fantastic, right? Like we know exactly what we're getting anytime that we roster Joe Flacco, which is the weirdest thing to say in the year 2024. He's been extremely efficient from a fantasy perspective, though he has turned the ball over an awful lot this year. So 300 yards in the last 4 games, multiple touchdowns in all of the games that he has started for the Browns. He has unlocked multiple players in this offense, 22 points or more in all of his last 4 games. Like, it was a joke earlier this season that he was the puke stack a couple of times. Like, oh yeah, he's the puke stack, and you guys fought me. You're like, no, we're gonna riot in the chat. And now you're like, oh yeah, of course, I totally want to play Joe Flacco. Like, why would I not play Joe Flacco? First of all, he's really cheap. Specifically on this slate, looking at the quarterbacks on this slate, Mahomes at 71, Tua at 7,000, Stroud at 68, Flacco at 61. Like, he's the cheapest quarterback on this slate, and I think that the pricing is extremely tight. And we're going to have to try and make some things happen. You're going to have to figure certain things out. At running back for Cleveland, Jerome Ford has really been their go-to guy, at least in terms of fantasy purposes for us on DraftKings. It is a 2-man gig. He has gotten the 55 to 60% of the work, with more work in the passing game. But it's hard to rely on either one of the options in this offense. He's 5,500. The other half of this 2-headed monster has kind of been Kareem Hunt, who has not gotten as much work in the passing game and is therefore less reliable from a DraftKings point of view at 4,700. In a 2-game slate and a 1-game or 1-week point of view, you could go that route if you wanted to, but if you wanted to look for value, I would probably look for Jerome Ford if you're looking for the cheaper option. At wide receiver for Cleveland. Amari Cooper has been outstanding. 54 points against Houston, 24 points against Chicago, 13 points against Jacksonville. He did not play in the final week. He was given that rest. He did not play in week 17 either. I'm assuming that he is going to be back for this game against Houston. He is priced at 6,800. You can probably get him into lineups if you want. He is we're going to look at, once we get all the teams broken down, you're going to see kind of where he fits versus other players. He is priced similarly to a couple of other wide receivers, and you're going to have to make a choice of where you want to get, because you can afford a couple of guys, but you can't afford everybody on this slate based on the way that they've priced it. Elijah Moore, a couple of good games, but a couple of duds as well. He has really looked out for David Njoku, who has been his secondary target behind Cooper. 8, 9, 14, and 8 targets the last 4 games. Explosions from him, touchdowns or not. He's getting there on volume with 200-yard games in the last 4. 91 yards against Jacksonville back in week 14. A premium spot for him, and their defense at 3,300 is certainly affordable on this slate. All 4 teams in winning situations in terms of their defense. All the defenses in the playoffs are solid. CJ Stroud, 6,800. The Browns, the best defense this week, the best defense in the league, not presenting good situations for anybody. I've referred to them as the Russian judge, the toughest defense that any team can match up against. CJ Stroud has been outstanding this year. The number 10 offensive line in the league in terms of PFF's ratings, in terms of offensive line efficiency. They've done a great job blocking for him. The number 4 wide receiver group in the league. CJ Stroud has been phenomenal. However, this defense is extremely disruptive. Singletary has been great. For what he cost them, everybody kind of laughed when they signed Devin Singletary. We were all on board, myself included, with Dameon Pierce, with how good he looked last year. He is nothing but an afterthought at this point, as Devin Singletary has been extremely efficient and very helpful in the passing game as well. He's going to have a massive game at 5,700 this week. At 5,700, he presents you at least a solid release valve to get you a little bit of salary relief, and if you're playing a couple of Browns, a little bit of correlation. On a short slate, you're going to play players against a defense. You're going to have to, make some concessions to your normal lineup building techniques. On a fuller slate, so like short slate football is different. I prefer larger slate football, but you're going to have to take some chances. That's just the way that it goes. Nico Collins, Jesus, this guy had a monster season. Against Indy, 37.5 points, 37 against Denver, 38.8 against Pittsburgh, 30.6 against Indy the first time that they played. He has shown a ceiling like nobody else in the league. Like, we have seen that he is as good on his best days as any other wide receiver that is out there, but he's not consistent with that, like the Tyreek Hills or the Justin Jeffersons or the Jamar Chases. He's not that, but he is capable of putting up games like that. Whether or not he can do that against Cleveland, we'll see. He's 7K, so he sits above guys like Rashee Rice. He sits above guys like Amari Cooper on this slate. Noah Brown, questionable because he missed last week's game, which was a must-win for them. He was not healthy enough. He's down at 5,100. I think he's more palatable against a tougher defense at 1,900 less. Bobby Trees at 3,600. Michi has not shown much to us so far. Has not done much with very many targets. He has not really busted a grape. At tight end, we do have a couple of value options. 4,400 for Dalton Schultz. And Brevin Jordan has at least shown us the ability to get in the end zone at 2,500. For Miami, again, this game is going to be very, very cold. Tua coming off of a bad game, and Miami's defense has lost all of their edge rushers. So it's going to be interesting to see how much pressure they can put on Kansas City. And Kansas City now well rested on offense after giving all of their skill players the week off. Miami having a tough game and a tough loss against Buffalo at home. Now they have to travel to Kansas City instead of having a home game, and Tua did not look great. Both Buffalo and Miami dealing with a ton of injuries, and Miami now having to go to Kansas City, a well-rested Kansas City team, we'll see what happens in this game. That's basically that is what it is. Tua is as good as his receivers. You've heard me over the course of not just this year, but last year and the year before saying as much as everybody wants to put on the quarterback position, quarterback is the most important position in pro sports. All of I'm not disagreeing with that at all, but nothing affects quarterbacks like their wide receivers. An offensive line can definitely help out a quarterback, but a quarterback can be great behind a bad offensive line if they have amazing wide receivers. Case in point, Joe Burrow went to the Super Bowl and almost won it against the Rams with a bottom 5 offensive line with great wide receiver play just a couple of years ago. And Tua has just that when they're healthy. But Tyreek Hill has been amazing this season, one of the most dominant wide receivers in the history of football. And he continues to be dominant. Even against Buffalo this week, 21.2 DraftKings points, 82 yards, caught a touchdown, did a backflip, his house burned down, all those sorts of things. He is going to get Snead this week. So, like, the last time they played, did not score a touchdown, 13.5 points. He drew Snead. Caught 8 catches, 62 yards. Snead does a fantastic job. No matter how much motion they put him in, Snead has shut basically everybody down. Now, Jalen Waddle could not play this week. He was inactive against the Bills in a must-win situation for them. Yeah, they were in the playoffs, but the path is much different from the team that lost that game versus the team that wins that game. You get a home game, and then you avoid Baltimore in the second round. So it was a road game against the Chiefs, and then if you win that game, you have to go and play Baltimore. It's just bad all around. So this is not a great situation. So you want Waddle active for this game if you're planning to roster Tua. It's not a great situation for Tua, in my opinion, if Waddle's not there. They need Waddle to be active, and not just active. They need full Waddle for this game to be effective, because the rest of this wide receiver room just can't cut the mustard. Ced Wilson Jr. can't get open enough. Braxton Berrios can't get open enough. River Craycraft was great in college, can't get open enough, which means that they have to rely on Durham Smythe, who has produced for us in fantasy for the price, but can't get open enough to unlock this offense. And at running back, Devon Achane has been fabulous from a per play perspective, but you can't put as much on him as they would need to put on him with the absence of Waddle. And then you're going to hope that they're going to get Raheem Mostert back, who has done a great job scoring touchdowns, 21 touchdowns on the year. This is a tough spot for this Miami offense, especially with the prices that they're at and going to cost you against Kansas City. Now, Kansas City, a down year for Mahomes, 27 touchdowns, 4,100 yards, not great wide receiver play from him, terrible play calling, lowest ADOTs, lowest EPA per play, lower yards per attempt on first downs, second downs. They just can't stretch the field. Lowest multiple touchdown games of his career, all of it. Higher interceptions per game, under 20 fantasy points per game. Throw it all out the window. Now they're in situations where they can exploit this Miami defense. As I said, they've lost Chubb. They lost Van Ginkel last night. They lost another one of their edge rushers. This is a situation where they can pounce at least a little bit if the weather is something that they can deal with. Coming off a situation where they're rested, Pacheco is running on full. He is priced at 6,400. I think that he is a situation that we can exploit. Way more utilized in the passing game recently, which is something that you love to see, especially with DraftKings scoring. He was somebody that was not utilized in the passing game at all last year. They utilized him more at the beginning of the season, and then lately it's off the charts. 7 targets, 4 targets, 4 targets, 5 targets, caught all of them except one over the last 4 games. Rushed for 100 yards in 2 of the last 4 games. Now he gets a hobbled Miami defense. At wide receiver, Rashee Rice has really come on recently as they have focused their play down at wide receiver, playing way less wide receivers than they were early in the year, just spamming 9 and 10 guys out there. And half of them couldn't make plays. They're focusing on their playmaking players between Rice, Watson, and Travis Kelce to get the guys out there who can make plays. We'll see everybody else on IR, questionable. We'll see how much the king of cardio gets out there and runs around. We'll see how much Kadarius Toney we get, or if he is even going to be active in this game. Richie James would play if Kadarius is not there. And Travis Kelce priced down to 6,100, the cheapest that we've seen Travis Kelce in absolute years. Now, looking at the slate as a whole and how we're going to dissect it, the defenses, they're 2,800 to 3,300. So like a very narrow band on defenses, it's basically pick 'em at defense. At quarterback, there's a much wider range, 7,100 to 6,100. The top three, 71, 7,000, and 6,800. I think the best situation if you want to pay up is Mahomes. I'm going to come down here to Flacco. At running back, I think the best bet is Pacheco. And then I want to hit Singletary here at 57. If you wanted to click one of A-Chain or Mostert, I think Mostert has the most touchdown upside, A-Chain the most big play upside. I think Singletary gives us enough in the middle and correlates a little bit with Flacco for the lineup that I want to build here. I mentioned the log jam here in the middle with Collins, Cooper, and Rice. I think we have to target Tyreek Hill as he is the biggest playmaker possible on the site and can blow up a slate. And on a 2-game slate, I feel like we need to have the biggest playmaker for this single entry lineup that I'm building. If you want to fade Tyreek Hill because of the Snead matchup, I fully understand, but he is going to get 13 to 15 targets in this game. And if there is one player who can break one player down on any one play and blow the slate up in one play, if he gets 13 targets and only has 60 yards on 6 catches, that's one thing. That 14th target could be a 75-yard touchdown and totally wreck your day if you fade him. I'm going to go with Rashee Rice. I need some value now. Give me Elijah Moore at tight end. I talked about how Njoku was unlocked completely. I did not click Amari Cooper. I now need some value. Give me the Browns defense against a rookie quarterback. And now I need to find some value. I'm going to go with a double tight end. Give me Durham Smythe at 3,000. Let's head over to Fantasy Labs. And if you do not have an account over to Fantasy Labs, go to smizzle.tv/labs with an uppercase L. The best value that they have is the all sports package for 6 months. This is what I start with when it comes to short slate lineup building. You can freeze the video if you wanted to take a look at it. I will typically expand this. You can expand this to 40% because it's a 2-gamer, not a 3 or a 4-gamer. And then I will build this custom rule that makes sure I have at least 2 players that are under 20%. That's usually for a larger, like a 3 or 4-game slate. You can expand this to 30% so that I can get different from everybody else in these large millionaire maker tournaments. And if you wanted to take a more in-depth look at how I use the Fantasy Labs lineup builder, here's a video. And if you wanted to take a more in-depth look at how I utilize the Fantasy Labs lineup builder, here is a longer video that will teach you just that. All the ins and outs of how I take a look at that lineup builder and import those lineups and edit lineups that already exist on DraftKings using everything and all the tools over at Fantasy Labs. I wish you the best of luck this weekend. Bye.